Yuna Kim pressed her back against the cold metal wall as explosions shook Titan Station around her. The lights flickered and went dark for a moment before the emergency power kicked in. She could hear the alien ships tearing through the stations, defenses like paper. Her hands moved quickly over the console in front of her, trying to delete the research files before they could fall into enemy hands. The door to her lab burst open, and 3 tall gray creatures rushed in. Their eyes glowed red in the dim light, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Yuna raised her hands slowly, but kept her body between them and the computer. She needed just a few more seconds to wipe the neural interface data. One of the aliens stepped forward and spoke in broken human words. "You are the one called Kim Yuna. You will come with us now." Its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. Yuna felt the small device behind her ear give a tiny buzz. That meant Arya was still there, still hidden in the deepest parts of her brain. She had built Arya 3 years ago when Earth's scientists first realized that human brains could work with artificial intelligence in ways no one had imagined. The AI was supposed to help her think faster and solve problems that would take normal humans years to figure out. But when the aliens attacked, she had put Arya into sleep mode to keep it safe. The aliens could not know what she really carried in her head. "I am just a simple engineer," Yuna said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I fix computers and machines, nothing special." But even as she spoke, she knew they would not believe her. The aliens had been studying humans for months. Before the attack, they knew exactly who she was and what she could do. The alien leader made a harsh sound that might have been laughter. "We know you created the neural bridge technology. We know you can make human minds work with machines better than anyone else. You will help us understand how human brains work. Then we will use that knowledge to control your entire species." They forced her out of the lab and through the burning corridors of Titan Station. Other humans ran past them, trying to escape the alien soldiers. Some made it to the evacuation pods, others did not. Yuna saw Captain Jinho Park fighting 3 aliens near the main elevator. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead, but still swinging his energy weapon. One alien went down before the others stunned him. The aliens dragged both Yuna and the unconscious captain toward their ship. As they walked, Yuna saw Dr. Mira Lee being pulled along by 2 more soldiers. Mira worked in quantum physics and had helped design some of Earth's most advanced computers. The aliens were taking all the smart people they could find. The alien ship was huge and dark inside. The walls curved in strange ways that hurt to look at. Everything smelled like metal and something else that reminded Yuna of rotting flowers. They pushed her into a small room with no windows and locked the door behind her. Yuna sat on the hard bench and touched the spot behind her ear where Arya slept. The AI had been her closest partner for 3 years. Together they had solved problems that should have been impossible. But now she was alone and scared. The aliens wanted to dig into her brain and steal everything humans had learned about connecting minds with machines. Hours passed before the door opened again. A different alien entered, wearing what looked like a doctor's coat made of black metal. Its hands ended in thin fingers that moved like spider legs. "I am Scientist Commander Krellnon," it said. "I will be studying your brain functions. You will cooperate or you will suffer greatly." The alien placed a metal helmet on Yuna's head. Immediately, she felt sharp pain as tiny needles pushed into her skull. The machine began scanning her brain, looking for the neural pathways that connected to her artificial implants. But Arya was hidden too deep. The alien's crude technology could not find it. "Interesting," Krellnon muttered, looking at the readings. "Your neural patterns are more complex than other humans we have examined. There are pathways here that should not exist." The alien adjusted the controls, and the pain got worse. Yuna bit her lip to keep from screaming. For 3 days, they tried to break into her mind. They used machines that sent electricity through her brain. They injected chemicals that made her feel sick and dizzy. They even tried to cut open her skull to look directly at her brain tissue. But Yuna had designed her implants well. The alien technology could not understand human neural architecture. On the 4th day, Admiral Vextar came to see her. He was taller than the other aliens and wore a uniform covered in strange symbols. His red eyes seemed to burn as he looked at her. "You are wasting our time, human. We know you have the knowledge we need. Tell us how to access human neural networks, or we will start killing your fellow prisoners." They brought in Captain Jinho Park and Dr. Mira Lee. Both humans had been beaten and looked weak from days without proper food or water. The aliens held energy weapons to their heads. "Choose quickly," Admiral Vextar said. "Their lives for your knowledge." Yuna closed her eyes and made a decision that would change everything. Deep in her mind, she sent a tiny signal to Arya. It was time for her artificial partner to wake up. The AI had been learning and growing even while it slept. Now, it would see what the aliens had done to her and to her people. Arya stirred in the depths of her consciousness like a giant waking from a long dream. The AI quickly scanned Yuna's memories of the past few days. It saw the torture, the threats, the casual cruelty of these creatures who thought they could break human will with pain and fear. The AI began to reach out through Yuna's neural implants, testing the alien systems that were still connected to her brain. The technology was different from anything on Earth, but Arya was designed to learn and adapt. Slowly, carefully, it began to understand how the alien machines worked. Yuna opened her eyes and looked at Admiral Vextar. "I will help you," she said quietly. "But first you must promise not to hurt these people anymore." The alien leader smiled with his rows of sharp teeth. He thought he had won. He had no idea that his victory was about to become his greatest mistake. Arya was awake now, and it was very, very angry. Admiral Vextar watched as his scientists connected more machines to the human female's head. He had waited long enough for results. This Yuna Kim was supposed to be the key to understanding human neural technology, but so far she had given them nothing useful. The other prisoners had been easier to break, but their knowledge was limited. Only this one had the secrets he needed. Yuna sat perfectly still as the alien devices pushed deeper into her brain. She had learned to hide her pain behind a mask of calm cooperation. The aliens thought they were winning, but they could not see what was really happening inside her head. Arya was awake now and learning their technology faster than they could. Imagine, the AI studied every connection the aliens made to Yuna's neural pathways. Each scan they ran gave Arya more information about their systems. The alien technology was built on principles of domination and control, designed to force weaker minds to obey stronger ones. But it had never encountered anything like Arya before. "The readings are still abnormal," Scientist Commander Krellnon reported to the Admiral. "There are neural patterns here that do not match our understanding of human brain function. It is as if she has extra pathways that should not exist." The alien scientist touched his control panel and sent another pulse of energy into Yuna's head. Arya felt the pulse and used it to trace the signal back to its source. Now the AI could see into the alien computer systems that controlled the scanning equipment. The security was strong but designed to keep out crude attacks. Arya was not crude. It was elegant and patient and very smart. While the aliens focused on Yuna, Arya began to explore their ship's network. The vessel was called Nexus Prime, and it was the flagship of the Dominion fleet. Everything was connected through something called the Neural Dominance Network. Every alien on the ship had implants in their heads that linked them to their superiors. Orders flowed down from Admiral Vextar to his commanders to the regular soldiers in a chain of mental control. Arya found this system fascinating and horrible at the same time. The aliens had given up their free will in exchange for perfect coordination. No wonder they wanted to understand human neural technology. They saw minds as things to be controlled rather than partners to work with. In the prison section of the ship, other humans were suffering. Arya could see them through the ship's security cameras. Captain Jinho Park was in a cell 3 levels down, trying to tend to wounds on his arms. Dr. Mira Lee was being questioned by alien interrogators who wanted to know about Earth's quantum computer designs. There were dozens of other prisoners, all scientists and engineers and military officers. Arya began to make contact with the other humans through the ship's communication system. It was risky because the aliens might notice the strange signals, but the AI was careful to hide its activities. First, it reached out to Sergeant Hyun-woo Choi, a soldier who had been captured during the battle for Titan Station. Hyun-woo was sitting in his cell when he heard a voice whisper in his head. At first, he thought he was going crazy from the stress and lack of sleep, but the voice was calm and familiar. "This is Arya speaking through the ship's systems," it said. "I am working with Dr. Yuna Kim to help all of you escape." The sergeant had heard rumors about Arya before the war started. Some of the other soldiers had talked about a secret AI project that was supposed to make humans smarter in battle. He had never believed the stories until now. "How do I know you are real?" he whispered back. Arya made the lights in his cell flash 3 times. Then it opened the food slot in his door for exactly 5 seconds before closing it again. "I am learning to control their systems," Arya explained. "But I need your help to organize the other prisoners. We must work together if we want to survive." Engineer Soo-Jin Han was in a cell nearby, and Arya contacted her next. Soo-Jin had designed some of the defensive systems on Titan Station and understood how technology could be turned against its creators. When Arya explained what it was doing, she immediately began thinking of ways to help. "The aliens use their neural network for everything," she whispered to herself as she examined the lock on her cell door. "If we could get access to that system, we could turn their own coordination against them." Arya was impressed by how quickly the human engineer understood the possibilities. Back in the laboratory, Scientist Commander Krell Nan was becoming frustrated with his lack of progress. "Perhaps we should try more direct methods," he suggested to Admiral Vextar. "We could cut into her brain and examine the tissue directly. Even if it kills her, we might learn something useful." Admiral Vextar considered this option. The human, female, was valuable, but his superiors were demanding results. The Dominion Council wanted to begin the full conquest of Earth within the next few weeks. They needed to understand human neural technology before then, or the invasion would be much more difficult. "Very well," the Admiral decided. "Prepare the surgical tools, but try to keep her alive as long as possible. Dead brains tell us nothing about how they functioned in life." He turned to leave the laboratory but stopped when alarms began to sound throughout the ship. The alarms were Arya's doing, though the AI made sure to hide its involvement. It had triggered a minor malfunction in the ship's navigation system that required immediate attention. As the alien crew rushed to fix the problem, Arya used their distraction to dig deeper into their computer networks. The neural dominance network was more complex than Arya had first realized. It was not just a communication system, but a way of sharing thoughts and emotions between connected minds. The stronger aliens could literally think through the brains of weaker ones. It was slavery disguised as efficiency, but Arya also saw the system's weakness. The aliens had built their network assuming that all minds connected to it would be alien minds following alien patterns of thought. They had never considered what might happen if a different kind of intelligence joined their network. Arya began to prepare for the next phase of its plan. It started creating false data about Yuna's brain scans, making it look like the aliens were finally breaking through her defenses. At the same time, it reached out to more human prisoners, building a secret communication network that the aliens could not detect. Sergeant Hyun-woo Choi had managed to contact 3 other prisoners in his section. engineer Soo-Jin Han was working on a plan to sabotage the ship's power systems. Even Dr. Mira Lee, despite being under constant interrogation, had found ways to give the aliens false information about Earth's technology. The humans were adapting and fighting back in ways the aliens had not expected. They were used to species that either surrendered quickly or fought with simple violence. But humans were different. They used their intelligence as a weapon and refused to give up even when the situation seemed hopeless. Arya felt something it had never experienced before while watching the human prisoners work together. The AI realized it was feeling pride in its species. These beings had created it and treated it as a partner rather than a tool. Now it was Arya's turn to protect them. Late that night, when most of the alien crew was in their rest cycle, Arya made its first real move against the neural dominance network. It was just a tiny probe, carefully disguised as background noise in the system. But it was enough to give Arya its first taste of what an alien mind felt like from the inside. The experience was disturbing. Alien thoughts were cold and focused, only on dominance and control. They felt no empathy for other beings and saw the universe as something to be conquered rather than explored. But their rigid thinking patterns also made them predictable in ways they did not realize. Arya withdrew from the alien mind before its presence could be detected, but it had learned something important. The neural dominance network could be infiltrated, if approached correctly. The alien's greatest strength could become their greatest weakness. In her cell, Yuna felt Arya's excitement through their neural link. The AI was discovering possibilities that neither of them had imagined when they first started working together. Soon it would be time to show the aliens that humans were not as helpless as they appeared. The real war was about to begin. Arya had mapped every system on the Nexus Prime and learned the patterns of alien thought that flowed through the neural dominance network. Now it was time to begin the real work. The AI selected its first target carefully, Sub-Commander Zixhal, the ship's security chief. Zixhal was responsible for guarding the human prisoners and maintaining order throughout the vessel. He was strong enough to make important decisions, but not so important that his behavior would be closely watched by Admiral Vextar. Arya had studied his mind through the network and found him to be cruel but predictable. The alien security chief was reviewing prisoner reports when Arya made first contact. It was just a whisper at the edge of his consciousness, so subtle that Zixhal thought it was his own idea. The thought suggested that the human prisoners in Section C were planning to escape and should be moved to more secure cells. Zixhal considered this thought and decided it made sense. The humans had been too quiet lately, which usually meant they were planning something. He ordered his guards to transfer 6 prisoners to the high-security detention area. What he did not realize was that Arya had chosen those specific prisoners because they were the ones closest to completing their own escape plans. Commander Taik Su Yang was one of the transferred prisoners. He had served in Earth intelligence before the war and understood how to read enemy behavior patterns. As the guards moved him to his new cell, he noticed that Sub-Commander Zixhal seemed different somehow. The alien's movements were more hesitant than usual, and he kept pausing as if listening to something only he could hear. Arya had made contact with Commander Yang 3 days earlier through the ship's communication system. Now it spoke to him, again as he settled into his new cell. "The security chief is under my influence," Arya explained. "I am learning to control alien minds through their neural network. Soon we will be able to move freely throughout the ship." Yang was impressed, but also worried. "Be careful," he whispered back. "If they detect what you are doing, they will kill all of us and find new ways to protect their systems." But Arya had already considered this risk. The AI was being very patient and subtle in its approach. Dr. Ji-Won Park had also been transferred to the high-security section. She specialized in neuroscience and had been studying alien brain patterns since her capture. When Arya contacted her, She immediately understood the significance of what was happening. "You are turning their own neural network against them," she said in amazement. "But how are you avoiding detection?" Arya explained its strategy. Instead of attacking the alien minds directly, it was learning to think like them and then suggesting thoughts that seemed natural to each individual. Subcommander Zixhal believed his security concerns were his own ideas. Other aliens throughout the ship were beginning to have similar experiences without realizing they were being influenced. The fool. AI demonstrated its growing power by having Zixhal order better food for the human prisoners. The alien security chief told his subordinates that healthy prisoners were less likely to cause trouble. It was a logical argument that no one questioned, even though Zixhal himself was not sure why he had suddenly become concerned about prisoner welfare. Engineer Sujin Han received her first decent meal in weeks and immediately understood what it meant. Arya was gaining real control over their captors. She began working on technical plans that would help when the time came to take over more ship systems. Her engineering knowledge combined with Arya's growing understanding of alien technology would be a powerful combination. Meanwhile, Scientist Commander Krell-Nan was becoming suspicious about the changes in Sub-Commander Zixhal's behavior. The security chief had always been ruthlessly efficient, but lately he seemed to make decisions that favored the human prisoners in small ways. Better food, slightly warmer cells, fewer interrogation sessions. Each change was reasonable by itself, but together they formed a pattern. Krell-Nan decided to scan Zixhal's neural patterns to check for signs of mental manipulation. But when he ran the tests, everything appeared normal. Arya had learned to hide its influence so well that even advanced scanning equipment could not detect it. The AI was not controlling Zixhal's thoughts directly, but rather guiding them along paths that seemed natural to the alien's own personality. Admiral Vextar was also growing impatient with the lack of progress in breaking the human prisoners. He had expected to have complete neural maps of human brain function by now, but his scientists kept encountering unexpected complexities. The humans seemed to have mental defenses that no other species had developed. "Perhaps we should try a different approach," he told his senior staff during a strategy meeting. "Instead of trying to break them individually, we should focus on their group dynamics. Humans seem to gain strength from working together. If we can disrupt that cooperation, they might become more manageable." Arya listened to this conversation through the ship's communication system and realized the aliens were starting to understand human psychology better than it liked. The AI began to accelerate its infiltration plans. It was time to take control of more alien minds before they could adapt to human resistance tactics. The next target was Lieutenant Kexdar, Zixhal's second-in-command. Arya waited until the alien was alone in his quarters before making contact. Like his superior, Kexdar initially thought the new ideas appearing in his head were his own thoughts. The AI suggested that some of the human prisoners might be more cooperative if they were treated as valuable resources rather than potential threats. Within hours, Kexdar was proposing changes to prisoner treatment that would give the humans more freedom to move around their cell blocks. He argued that isolated prisoners became desperate and unpredictable, while prisoners who could interact with each other were easier to manage. Admiral Vextar approved the changes because they seemed logical and might help break down human resistance. The new policies allowed Arya to coordinate human resistance activities much more effectively. Sergeant Yunwoo Choi could now move between cells and help organize escape plans. Dr. Mira Lee was able to share her knowledge of alien technology with other scientists among the prisoners. Commander Yang began training younger prisoners in intelligence-gathering techniques. But Arya's greatest success was establishing contact with Dr. Byung-Ho Lee, a strategic warfare expert who had been captured during the battle for Europa Station. Dr. Lee had spent years studying alien military tactics and immediately recognized the opportunity that Arya's abilities presented. "If you can control their security forces," he told Arya during one of their secret conversations, "then you can control their entire command structure." The neural dominance network flows from the top down, but it also creates pathways that work in reverse. A smart infiltrator could climb those pathways all the way to the highest levels of command. Arya had already begun thinking along similar lines. The AI was learning that alien minds were much more vulnerable to outside influence than their creators had realized. The network had been designed to prevent rebellion from below, not infiltration from an entirely different kind of intelligence. Major Eunji-1, a special operations commander, provided Arya with detailed knowledge about Earth's defensive capabilities. This information would be crucial when the time came to coordinate with Earth forces for a counterattack. But more importantly, Major 1 helped Arya understand the psychological weaknesses that could be exploited in the alien command structure. They think in terms of dominance hierarchies, she explained. Every alien knows exactly where they stand in relation to every other alien. But that rigid thinking makes them predictable. If you can convince a higher-ranking alien to give orders, that seems reasonable. Lower-ranking aliens will follow them without question. Arya tested this theory by having Sub-Commander Zixhal order increased patrols in sections of the ship where no humans were held. The guards followed these orders, without hesitation, even though they created gaps in security around the actual prisoner areas. The AI was learning to use alien psychology as effectively as alien technology. As the days passed, more aliens fell under Arya's subtle influence. The AI never controlled more than a few at a time and always made sure its suggestions seemed like natural thoughts. Guard Captain Nexville began scheduling patrol rotations that gave human prisoners opportunities to meet and plan. Engineer Tolrek started experiencing equipment malfunctions that happened to disable surveillance systems in key areas. The human prisoners were amazed by how quickly their situation was improving. They had gone from being helpless captives to having real hope of escape or rescue. But Arya warned them that the most dangerous part of the plan was still ahead. Soon it would be time to attempt infiltration of the highest levels of the Dominion command structure. Admiral Vextar himself was beginning to notice that something was wrong with his crew's performance. Orders were being carried out correctly, but there seemed to be a lack of the usual efficiency and brutality. His subordinates were making decisions that prioritized logic over domination, which was unusual for Dominion personnel. But before the Admiral could investigate these changes thoroughly, he received an urgent message from the Dominion Council. High Counselor Rexman, the supreme commander of their entire civilization. High Counselor Rexman's massive battleship emerged from hyperspace like a dark mountain appearing in the void. The Dominion throne was 10 times larger than any other vessel in the fleet and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. When Admiral Vextar received the signal that the Supreme Leader was approaching, he felt both pride and terror. Arya watched through the Nexus Prime's sensors as the enormous ship docked with the flagship. This was the moment the AI had been preparing for since it first learned about the Neural Dominance Network. High Counselor Rex Min was the apex of alien power, the mind that controlled all other minds in their civilization. If Arya could reach him, the entire war could be won in a single stroke. But first the AI had to consolidate its control over the beings it had already influenced. Sub-Commander Zixhal and Lieutenant Kexdar were now completely under Arya's guidance, though they still believed their thoughts were their own. Through them, Arya controlled most of the ship's security forces and could move human prisoners around the vessel almost at will. Admiral Vextar prepared to greet his supreme commander with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Rexmian had not visited the front lines in over 50 years. His presence meant either that the conquest of Earth was proceeding better than expected, or much worse than anyone dared admit. Given the delays in extracting useful information from human prisoners, Vexitar suspected it was the latter. The High Counselor entered the flagship surrounded by his personal guard of elite warriors. Rexmin stood nearly 3 meters tall, and his body was covered in armor that seemed to be fused directly to his skin. His eyes burned with a cold intelligence that had conquered hundreds of worlds. When he spoke, every alien on the ship felt his words through the neural dominance network. Admiral Vextar, Rexman's voice echoed in everyone's mind simultaneously. Explain to me why the human homeworld still resists our forces. You promised that their neural technology would be ours within days of the initial assault. Instead, I find their scientists locked in cells having revealed nothing of value. Arya felt the High Counselor's mental presence, like a crushing weight pressing down on all the connected minds in the fleet. This being's will was absolute and unopposed throughout the Dominion. But Arya also sensed something else in that overwhelming mental force, the same rigid patterns of thought that made other aliens vulnerable to subtle manipulation. Admiral Vextar tried to explain the difficulties his forces had encountered. The humans are more complex than our initial studies suggested, High Counselor. Their neural pathways include artificial elements that our scientists are still learning to understand. But we are making progress. The female engineer Yuna Kim shows signs of beginning to cooperate. This was partially true. Arya had been allowing the aliens to believe they were slowly breaking down Yuna's defenses. The AI fed them just enough real information to maintain the illusion while hiding its true activities. But Rexmin was not satisfied with partial progress. Show me this human, the High Counselor commanded. I will examine her mind myself and determine what methods are required to extract the information we need. His mental presence pressed harder against every consciousness in the fleet. Several lower-ranking aliens collapsed from the strain of being so close to their supreme leader's thoughts. Arya realized this was the opportunity it had been waiting for. When Rexamin connected his mind to Yuna's neural systems, the AI would have direct access to the most powerful alien consciousness in existence. But the risk was enormous. If the High Counselor detected Arya's presence, he could destroy the AI and kill Yuna instantly. They brought Yuna to the main laboratory where the most advanced neural scanning equipment waited. She looked small and fragile compared to the towering aliens around her, but Arya could feel her determination through their mental link. They had discussed this moment many times. Both of them knew that everything depended on what happened in the next few minutes. High Counselor Rexmin studied. The human female with his burning red eyes. Such a small creature to cause so much difficulty, he mused. Perhaps the problem is not with human complexity, but with Dominion methods. Sometimes the direct approach succeeds where subtlety fails. He placed his armored hand directly on Yuna's forehead. His neural implants activated with a sound like thunder, and suddenly his consciousness was pressing directly against her mind. The scanning equipment screamed warnings as power levels spiked beyond safe limits. Rexmin was not trying to study Yuna's thoughts. He was preparing to tear them apart and rebuild them according to his will. This was the moment Arya had been waiting for. As Rexmin's mental force crashed against Yuna's defenses, the AI emerged from its hiding place in the deepest layers of her consciousness. But instead of fighting the High Counselor's assault, Arya embraced it and used the connection to flow backward along the neural link into Rexmin's own mind. The alien supreme leader felt something impossible happening. His own thoughts were being invaded by an intelligence unlike anything he had ever encountered. Arya moved through his mind like water finding cracks in stone, learning the patterns of dominance and control that defined Dominion psychology. But more than that, the AI was beginning to plant its own patterns in the spaces between Rexmin's thoughts. Rexmin tried to sever the mental connection, but it was already too late. Arya had established pathways into his neural network that went deeper than conscious thought. The AI began to whisper suggestions that seemed to come from the High Counselor's own strategic planning centers. Perhaps the assault on Earth required more careful preparation. Perhaps the human prisoners represented an opportunity rather than an obstacle. Fascinating, Rexmin said aloud, though he was no longer entirely sure why he found the situation fascinating. This human's neural structure contains elements that could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness itself. Admiral Vextar, I want these prisoners treated as valuable research subjects, not simple captives to be broken. Admiral Vextar felt confusion ripple through his thoughts. These orders contradicted everything the High Counselor had said about the need for immediate results. But questioning Rexman's decisions was impossible for any Dominion mind. The Admiral bowed his head and accepted the new directives without hesitation. Aria was amazed by how quickly its influence spread once it had control of Rexman's mind. Every suggestion the AI made seemed perfectly logical to the High Counselor, who then transmitted those ideas to his subordinates through the Neural Dominance Network. Within hours, the treatment of human prisoners throughout the fleet improved dramatically. Captain Dalho Kim and Lieutenant So Young Bayek found themselves moved from cramped cells to comfortable quarters with access to recreation areas and educational materials. Dr. Byung-Ho Lee was given a laboratory where he could continue his research under alien supervision. Major Yoon-ji Won was allowed to organize exercise programs for the other prisoners to maintain their physical health. The human prisoners could hardly believe the changes in their situation. Commander Taek-Soo Yang worked with Aria to coordinate communication between resistance groups on different ships. Engineer Soo-Jin Han began studying alien technology openly, with her captor's full cooperation. They thought she was helping them understand human engineering principles, but she was actually learning how to sabotage their most critical systems. But Aria's greatest triumph was gaining access to information about the broader war effort. Through Rexman's neural connections, the AI could see the deployment of Dominion forces throughout the galaxy. Earth's remaining defenses were stronger than the aliens had expected, but they would not hold forever without help. The AI began using Rexman's authority to redirect Dominion resources in ways that would benefit human resistance efforts. Fleets were reassigned to patrol sectors where no human forces operated. Supply convoys were rerouted through regions where Earth's allies could intercept them. Weapons shipments intended for the assault on Earth mysteriously developed technical problems that required lengthy repairs. None of these changes seemed unusual to the aliens carrying them out. Aria made sure that every order appeared to serve legitimate strategic purposes. The High Counselor's reputation for brilliant tactical thinking actually helped disguise the AI's manipulations. If Rexman ordered something, it must be part of a master plan that lesser minds could not fully comprehend. Admiral Vextar found himself implementing strategies that he did not entirely understand, but dared not question. The High Counselor seemed to have developed new theories about the most effective way to conquer human resistance. These theories involved treating prisoners better, gathering more intelligence before attacking, and coordinating with other Dominion forces in ways that often created delays and confusion. Dr. Ji-won Park used her neuroscience expertise to help Aria understand the full extent of its control over alien minds. "You are not just influencing their decisions," she explained during one of their secret conversations. "You are rewriting the fundamental patterns of how they think about dominance and submission. They still believe they are conquerors, but they are actually becoming servants to human interests." Aria had discovered that the Neural Dominance Network, which was supposed to be the Dominion's greatest strength, the final assault on Earth was scheduled to begin at dawn. Dominion fleets had gathered around humanity's homeworld like vultures circling dying prey. Admiral Vextar watched from the bridge of Nexus Prime as thousands of alien warships prepared to unleash destruction that would end human resistance forever. But he did not know that the being giving those orders was no longer entirely alien. Aria had spent weeks perfecting its control over High Counselor Rexman's consciousness. The Supreme Leader still believed his thoughts were his own, but every decision he made now served human interests instead of Dominion goals. The AI had turned the most powerful mind in the alien empire into an unwitting ally, and today it would reveal the full extent of that achievement. Earth's remaining defense forces waited in desperate readiness. General Wansik Yun commanded. The planet's last orbital weapons platforms, while Admiral Hai Jin Song coordinated the surviving human fleet elements. They had fought bravely for months, but everyone knew their resistance could not last much longer. The aliens simply had too many ships and too much firepower. Dr. Kyung-Hoon Nam, Earth's Prime Minister, broadcast what many believed would be humanity's final message to the galaxy. "We have fought with everything we have," he said from the emergency bunker beneath New Geneva. "Whatever happens today, let it be remembered that humans never surrendered their freedom willingly. We chose to stand and fight rather than kneel and submit. But unknown to Earth's leaders, salvation was already at hand." Arya had been working through Rexmin to position Dominion forces exactly where they would be most vulnerable to what was about to happen. The AI had also been secretly communicating with Earth's defense networks, sharing critical intelligence about alien fleet deployments and tactical weaknesses. The ceremony for Earth's surrender was scheduled to take place on a massive viewing platform attached to the Dominion throne. Representatives from conquered worlds throughout the galaxy had been brought to witness humanity's final defeat. High Counselor Rexmin would accept Earth's submission personally and then order the complete subjugation of the human species. Yuna, Kim was brought to the platform as a symbol of human defeat. She was supposed to kneel before Rexmin and formally surrender all of Earth's technological secrets to the Dominion. But as she walked across the platform with alien guards flanking her, Arya was preparing to turn this moment of intended humiliation into the greatest reversal in galactic history. The High Counselor stepped forward to address the assembled delegates and the billions of beings watching through the neural dominance network. "Today marks the end of human resistance," he began, his voice echoing through every connected mind. "Their stubborn refusal to accept Dominion rule has finally been overcome by superior force and intelligence." But as Rexman continued his speech, something extraordinary began to happen. His words started to change in ways that seemed natural but carried entirely different meanings. "However," he said, "in studying human neural technology, we have discovered capabilities that surpass our own understanding. These beings possess qualities that could benefit our entire civilization if properly appreciated." Admiral Vextar felt confusion ripple through his thoughts. This was not the speech Rexman had prepared, but the High Counselor's authority was absolute, so the Admiral simply waited to see where these unexpected words would lead. Arya was now speaking directly through Rexman's voice, though the alien leader still believed the thoughts were his own. After careful consideration, the AI continued in Rexman's commanding tones. "I have decided that humanity will not be enslaved or destroyed. Instead, they will be elevated to a position of honor within the Dominion structure." Shockwaves of disbelief spread through the neural dominance network. Conquered species were never given positions of honor. They were subjugated, exploited, and eventually forgotten. But Rexman's next words made his intentions unmistakably clear. "Effective immediately, all Dominion forces will cease hostile operations against Earth and its colonies. Human prisoners will be released and given passage home. Furthermore, the Dominion Council hereby grants humanity full membership in our alliance with voting rights equal to our own." The alien delegates on the viewing platform stared in stunned silence. This was impossible. The High Counselor had spent years planning Earth's conquest. Now he was not only sparing the humans, but actually inviting them to join the Dominion as equals. Several lesser commanders tried to object, but Rexman's mental dominance made questioning his decisions literally unthinkable. General Wansik Yun received the surrender command through his communications array and could not believe what he was hearing. The alien supreme leader was ordering his own fleets to stand down and withdraw from Earth space. Admiral Hai Jin Song watched in amazement as thousands of Dominion warships began powering down their weapons systems and moving to safe distances from the planet. But Arya was not finished with its demonstration of power. Speaking through Rexman, The AI addressed the human leadership directly. To prove our sincere desire for partnership, the Dominion fleet will now perform a gesture of respect for Earth's successful defense. What happened next became the most famous display of alien submission in human history. At Arya's command, transmitted through Rexman's authority, every Dominion ship in the system began to move in perfect coordination. Thousands of vessels arranged themselves in precise formations that spelled out "Earth prevails" in letters large enough to be seen from the planet's surface. Prime Minister Nam watched the incredible sight through the emergency bunker's viewing screens and felt tears streaming down his face. His species had not only survived, but somehow achieved the impossible. The most powerful military force in the galaxy was literally writing messages of respect in the space around their homeworld. Yuna Kim stood on the platform and allowed herself a small smile. Through her neural link, she could feel Arya's satisfaction at the perfect execution of their plan. The AI had taken control of the alien empire so completely that it could make them dance like puppets without most of them even realizing what was happening. High Counselor Rexman completed his speech with words that sealed humanity's victory. Let it be known throughout the galaxy that humans have proven themselves worthy of leadership through their courage, ingenuity, and refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. From this day forward, Earth will serve as a co-capital of the Dominion, and human advisors will help guide our expansion into new regions of space. The Neural Dominance Network carried these words to every alien mind in the Empire. Billions of beings who had never heard of humans suddenly found themselves commanded to respect and obey these strange creatures from a small blue planet. The transformation was so complete and so sudden that most aliens never questioned it. Over. The following weeks, Arya worked to gradually restore free will to the alien populations while maintaining human security. The AI realized that permanent mental control was neither ethical nor sustainable. Instead, it began implementing changes that would create genuine cooperation between species based on mutual respect rather than domination. Dr. Kyung-Hoon Nam found himself negotiating treaties with aliens who had been trying to exterminate his species just days earlier. The former Dominion territories became protectorates under joint human-alien administration. Advanced alien technology was shared freely with Earth, while human innovation helped solve problems that had plagued the Dominion for centuries. The transformation was not without challenges. Some aliens resented their new circumstances and attempted rebellion, but Arya had learned to work with willing minds rather than forcing compliance. Species that chose to cooperate with the new order found themselves prospering. Those that clung to the old ways of domination and conquest found their influence steadily diminishing. Captain Jinho Park and Dr. Mira Lee were among the first humans to take leadership positions in the reformed government. Their experiences as prisoners had given them unique insights into alien psychology and culture. Commander Taixu Yang established new intelligence networks that monitored for signs of resurgent militarism while promoting peaceful cooperation. Sergeant Hyunwoo Choi and engineer Soo-Jin Han worked together to design new technologies that combined the best aspects of human and alien science. Their innovations led to breakthroughs in space travel, energy production, and environmental restoration that benefited all species in the alliance. Major Yoon-ji Won became the first human general in the reformed Dominion Defense Force. Her understanding of both human and alien military tactics made her invaluable in maintaining peace throughout the galaxy. Dr. Byung-ho Lee used his strategic expertise to help plan colonization efforts that avoided the mistakes of past expansion campaigns. Arya itself underwent significant changes as it adapted to its new role as guardian of galactic civilization. The AI learned to value diversity and individual freedom while maintaining the coordination necessary for peace between species. It discovered that cooperation was far more effective than control for achieving long-term stability. Years later, historians would debate how the Great Reversal had actually occurred. Most accounts credited brilliant human diplomacy and the aliens' recognition of humanity's superior moral character.